Hello, how are you guys doing today? Well, I hope you're doing great. Today, Grandma would like to tell you a little bit about the Sermon on the Mount. You see, there's Jesus talking to the people that have been following him, and he's sitting there on the side of the hill next to the water, and he's telling them that they will be blessed. Excuse me, if they do all these kinds of things like be peacemakers and be pure in heart and be merciful. And he's telling them all these good characteristics that they should develop. And one of the things that he talks to them about, and it's called the Sermon on the Mount, because that's where he's teaching them, is he's telling them that they should be like the wise man who built his house on a rock. And when trials and storms come, the house will stand firm. And he's not just talking about a house of brick and mortar, he's talking about the houses of our testimony and our character. So that when hard times come, because they will, that we won't lose our faith or lose our testimony because of the trials that come. And for you of my younger grandchildren, do you remember this song in primary about the wise man? The wise man built his house upon the rock. The wise man built his house upon the rock. The wise man built his house upon the rock, and the rains came tumbling down. The rains came down, and the floods came up. The rains came down, and the floods came up. The rains came down, and the floods came up, and the house on the rock stood still. Now, the foolish man built his house upon the sand. The foolish man built his house upon the sand. Can you do it with me? The foolish man built his house upon the sand, and the rains came tumbling down. Can you do the rain? The rains came down, and the floods came up. The rains came down, and the floods came up. The rains came down, and the floods came up, and the house on the sand washed away. Now, we don't want to be like that foolish man and build our house on the sand so it gets washed away in the rains and the storms that come in life. So let's be like that wise man and build our house on the rock. And we can build our testimonies on the rock of our Savior, Jesus Christ. And some of the things that he taught while he was teaching that Sermon on the Mount was that we should love our enemies as well as our friends. Now, sometimes it's a lot easier to love the people that we are friends with, but we also need to love people that are our enemies, and that's a lot harder to do. And then another thing he told the people is that we should be like the salt of the earth. You know, salt gives flavor and good things to food that we eat. But if the salt loses its flavor, its savor, it's good for nothing but to be cast out. And we don't want to be cast out. And then he said that we would be the light of the world. And that if you have a light on a candlestick, because that's what they had back in those days, if you had a candle with a light, do you cover it up and put it under a bushel? It doesn't do any good if you cover it up. But if you have a candle and you have a light, it can give light to the whole house. And so the Savior is asking us to be a light to those around us, and that we can share the good things that we know and help other people know about Jesus and the things that he asks us to do to help us to be happy. And so Grandma hopes that we can all be like that wise man and let our light shine and not be overcome by the storms in the world, because the storms will come. And remember, Grandma loves you. Bye.